Good morning, everybody. Yes, I'm up early, only because my husband gets up early now, so I get to see what his life is like when he was on the road. Now here at home, since he's home every day, but he still works, of course. So, yeah, first I want to mention something about somebody mentioning like fear porn and stuff. Back in 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. I've been in and out of covering the conspiracy world. I've been in and out of covering all the different perspectives. I mean, with the internet, you're going to have a plethora of truths, okay? And I say truths as a plural because we're dealing with so many different truths, but not all of them are facts. Facts don't come to fruition until the day of or when it actually is happening. Facts are something that you can measure physically. Okay? Now, the intention behind the facts is all perception, but when there's a fire, there's a fire. Now, you can have a story around a fire, and that's fine. And as far as where the fire came from, who did it, whatever, it doesn't even matter. There's a fire. Okay? So yeah, facts will happen. That's the proof, is when it actually happens and you see it and you experience it. Like, I'm here in Ohio and there are fires on the West Coast. Now, do I know for a fact there's fires on the West Coast? Well, I mean, I'm watching the news and I'm looking at my friend's Facebook, and so that pretty much kind of tells me that, yeah, there are fires on the West Coast, and there are people on my Facebook that I know personally that are corroborating that. So that, I would say, it's probably a fact. Okay? But, so we're not even going to dispute that. There are fires on the West Coast. Now, the stories around them, yeah, it's all perception. So, I've been warning everybody ever since I was listening to all these different videos that there's something going on. Now, I was taking the perspective from all the different conspiracy theorists, gurus out there, and they definitely have valid points. I mean, I'm not going to lie. They have definitely valid points, and there is, I would say, evidence to suggest that their truth definitely could be fact. I mean, maybe the logistics and certain part of the logistics may not be fact, maybe a perception, but we are now seeing the things that we were talking about many, many years back come to fruition. Okay? Even though, yes, it's a fire and we don't know who's, I mean, we hear all these stories. Oh, yeah, it's an arsonist. Oh, it's directed energy weapons. Oh, it's a person doing a gender reveal. I mean, whatever. That's just the same old thing when it comes to confusion. When the elite create all these different scenarios that could be the truth, and relative to your belief system, that will satisfy whatever it is it needs to explain what's going on. Okay, and that's kind of what we're dealing with as far as all the media and all the different perceptions. And here's the thing. I'm going to be covering the fear porn in the mainstream media. The reason why is because I've substantiated that antibodies are antibody. Okay, and guess what? That's all over the mainstream media. You're seeing it on Fox, CNN, all the different NBC stories, ABC. Oh, we're trying to get an antibody. Oh, we're trying to sustain antibodies. Oh, we're trying to create the most effective antibody testing that's universal for all COVID, whatever. And I'm just like, right there, it's in plain sight. So me now understanding that everything that they're doing is in plain sight, and they want your buy-in. And who is they? Those that are the architects of this system. They want your buy-in. They have their own code of ethics. They want your buy-in. They want your allowance. They want you to give permission, because that is their code of conduct. Is that they don't thrust something upon you without your permission. Because then you can't blame them when you're like, oh man, grandma died. Well, you gave her chemotherapy. It was antibiotic. Well, grandma died. I'm going to sue the medical industry. You can't sue the medical industry because you've given them permission. You've entered your grandma into the medical industry and they deal with antibiotics, and then you want to sue them for death? No, you gave them permission. Just because they spun it and said that antibodies are healing, antibodies are so good for you, doesn't absolve you from taking responsibility of understanding what it is you're entering yourself into. Okay? So you're dealing with some people who know how to spin the law, and the law is full of perceptions. The law is very vague. I mean, it can be very absolute, like, yeah, you commit a crime, you steal, you go to jail. But then it's proving, did you steal? Were you there? What was your intention? What were the extenuating circumstances? That's where the law gets so, like, vague and gets so crazy. Because now you have to prove intention and prove the circumstances were of a nefarious nature, an intentional nefarious nature, and then who was involved, and then to what extent, and then what's the punishment. What's a good punishment? And that's even based upon perception. And people get pissed off at the punishments because they never fit the crime according to each person, each victim. So then you figure out, well, you better not be a victim out there because the punishment will never fit the crime according to you. So knowing this, okay, you got to understand that there are warnings out there. Okay? I mean, and it's in plain sight. They're telling you what they're doing. And I've been exposed to many different people since I started rolling out the Jilly Juice. I've attracted so many different types, from different ascension artists that deal with Organite to all these different holistic people, to then people that say they're fighting a war against these direct energy weapons, where they actually have these long beams. And I'm telling you, I was attached to someone who kind of helped me through my legal stuff way in the beginning when I sued my old publisher, and walked me through that legal process to where I won that court case, yes, by default. But I mean, hey, winning is winning. I don't care how you do it, winning is winning. But I won by default. And so she was also researching, and she was in Hollywood. She was researching the Admiralty Law and the Common Law. There were groups that were talking about how do you become a sovereign citizen, sovereign from the U.S. government, and using the U.S. government constitution and the different laws and the vagueness of them, or even some of the case law, to substantiate that if you did your passport in some way and wrote down a P.O. box, or wrote down just a zip code, or wrote down something to where it supposedly would give you a different, like a sovereign status on your passport, which I did, and they ignored everything that I did, all the directions that I followed from that website regarding how do you get a passport where you're sovereign, where you're like a diplomat. And there was no different. They actually ignored everything. Because I said that my parents, I don't know, did I say? I said something to where it was different than what you're supposed to put on your passport. But they knew probably what I was doing, and they ignored all that information that I put that was a little bit different than the usual, because I followed some website. And it was a regular passport. There was really no difference. I was still a citizen of the United States, in whatever the passport says. There was no difference. And then I tried, to get a business account, because I didn't want to be held to the laws of my community, like Ohio, because of the whole Jilly Juice and all that crap that went along with it. And I didn't really know the laws back then. I was trying to get a business account without having to give up my social security number. I just wanted a tax ID number. You can't do that. I think I went to like 10 different banks. I went through so many, even my insurance company had a bank, and none of them would take me without my personal social security number. And she was like, hey, you got to find it. There's no way. Yeah, you can have a business tax ID number attached to your LLC, but it's still tied with your social security number. And then people were talking about in this group where you can go and get access to your treasuries, to your account through the U.S. Treasury. That your social security number has this huge amount of money, which it probably does, and that you can actually pay your bills using the money in the U.S. Treasury. You had a bank account number attached to your social security number, and I tell you what, some people said that they were successful at doing that, and then obviously the feds are going to crack down. I mean, come on, you guys. Here's the thing. You're outmaneuvered, okay? You can use your different energy weapons to counter the direct energy weapons, but you have to have a major amount of electricity energy to counter what is going on as far as the DEW and the satellites that are doing these things. They're doing the spybot search and destroy type of rife machine. What is it called? Like, I would say the macro rife machines is what I call the direct energy weapons. And well, how can you say that starts the fires? I didn't say it started the fires, but I'm saying that most likely there is probably terraforming going on, and we are speculating that yes, DEW is responsible, and the global warming and the conditioning, the global warming hoax, the conditioning of the population about global warming, so that way you'll expect something to happen in the future because eventually it's going to happen, right? It's the same thing as conditioning you guys to accept antibodies as healing. See, and that's why I'm able to really talk about this comfortably as if I know, because I do, in a way, can substantiate long range planning. I mean, I was raised in a household that was part of this architect of social distancing, of taking away your privileges. Now you got to earn your privileges. And now all of us are being punished for the lowest common denominator in our community as well as in our house. Okay? The asymptomatic testing of the COVID-19. You're watching the news where even Trump is playing a part, where him and Bob Woodward did a little vignette where he purposely recorded himself with Bob Woodward to say that yes, this pandemic is legit. It's a very aggressive virus. And it is, and here's the thing, what I get kind of pissed off at is that, there's some credible information from people who are seeing that, yeah, their kids are going to be taken away during a pandemic if you have a positive person and another person that's negative, and there's, vulnerabilities in the household. And they're saying, in their videos of trying to help parents try to figure out what's going on, to say, oh yeah, the COVID doesn't exist. It's just a pretend virus to take down the U.S. And then that takes out all credibility. Once you say the virus does not exist, it's a scam. You taking credibility out of anything that you're doing, and you've turned off probably 50% of the population, and then you're preaching to the choir. I know viruses exist. They're part of the microbiome, okay? And I've substantiated through academia. Oh, I know, but academia is paid off by the state. Here's the thing. Viruses are evolution. The cradle of humanity came out of Africa, Asia, the Mediterranean, Europe, right? And there are some aggressive viruses that we know of that are in Africa, in Asia, in the sub-Saharan desert, out there, all different places. Okay, so I'm not denying a virus. Nobody is. It's the fact that it's been synthetically bonded with several different strains put together, making it more aggressive. And then here's my conspiracy theory. It was intentionally released in Wuhan and then subsequently was spread across the globe. And like any new virus in the environment, you have your patient zero, and then it spreads through people's close contact. It's communicable. And he said, Trump said it was airborne in that video, and we knew it was airborne. Okay, we knew it was airborne. I knew it was airborne, but nobody could substantiate it until they just recently let that go. And there is a very slow conditioning to where they are releasing what you kind of knew in your gut, and it's being substantiated through your own president, as well as through Dr. Fauci and all these different people in the CDC and whatever. And so they're telling you the truth. Now you have to deal with it. They're telling you the facts. Now you have to deal with it. Okay? This virus does exist. It does. And so, so now it's like, now the virus is out there. They are doing the vaccinations. The vaccinations have different antibodies, monoclonal antibodies, whether it's DMAbs or MAbs. DMAbs is DNA monoclonal antibodies. Those antibodies are taken from people who have tested positive, and then those results are then sent to a lab, and that lab is housing as part of the genome, the human genome database, and they're using it in biotech to put into your vaccines. Now, and then this is how they spread different strains, because there's a percentage of the population that's going to get vaccinated with a more aggressive virus in the vaccine. Now, the vaccines can be turned up as far as the heat. What is the heat? The heat is how many antibodies are in that vaccine that is going to impact your biochemistry. And you can turn down the heat relative to the intention. And they've already done, like, they already figured out how to test the population to figure out how the average reaction to a vaccine is going to be. And that's why they're doing these trials to see what kind of reaction, and why AstraZeneca stopped the trials, because however many people they have injected and then put right back into your community have then experienced adverse reactions like transverse myelitis and some kind of neurological spinal condition. And I felt, like I said, I felt definitely some evolution in my head the last couple weeks. And I finally got over it because I'm on the Jilly Juice and I'm pretty much healthy. Okay? So you don't even have to get vaccinated, to be affected by your environment, because look what they did with Wuhan. And then with all of this, with the vaccines and the viruses and the fires, then you have the floods. You're being warned by NBC. Floods and dams are going to be, let for 4 million people might die in Wuhan, in China, okay, which would be actually really perfect to have Wuhan be completely drowned, the epicenter of where they release it all and they destroy all the evidence. I mean, come on. So now it's like, it's almost so ridiculous to even point out all of this conspiracy stuff, but you know what? I can corroborate at least 1/100th of what is going on. And I don't even, it's probably like 200, but I can only just give you an example that I can corroborate 1/100th of all these different damn conspiracies that are going on. Okay? Because I'm a slice of part of that. The MK Ultra, being raised with with the notion that children should be knowing about sex stuff at a very young age. What else? I was raised with this social distancing, isolation, draconian measures if you don't comply. And then, of course, being adopted from Vietnam, an orphan, and a lot of these MK Ultra do adopt orphaned babies, and some don't survive out there. You've heard about that stuff as far as them, the pedophile elite going after, kids and adrenochrome and all of that. Okay? And what else can I, psychotherapy household, biotech household, lawyer? I mean, my childhood was a perfect storm to corroborate and substantiate. And then the antibody deception. When I really researched through my own personal research, not because of what my parents told me, they don't tell me shit. I researched, but I came about it honestly because I was raised in it. So I do my own research and I look at logic, I look at words. I was very good at spelling as a child, and I was good at looking up words because I read the damn dictionary because I was always in trouble. So, and then always, being isolated and just focusing on reading and studying, whether it's a dictionary, encyclopedia, whatever. So when you're basically in your room all the time, like I was, locked in your room, what do? You read your dictionary, you read your encyclopedia, or I memorized the national anthem, the Israeli national anthem. Okay, so because I had the transliteration in my house, in my room from Sunday school. So so I can comfortably talk about all this stuff that's going on and know in my head it's true, because I know indicators. I know indicators of healing. I know indicators of all the different disease stuff. I know indicators of everything. And I pay attention to my body, mind, and spirit, and I pay attention to my environment. And so now it's like, it's not fear porn, guys. It's the fucking reality. If you can't face reality because you want to stay positive, you want to be like, oh yeah, it's all about, we got to change the way we think about stuff. You can spin it to whatever truth you want. But the facts will remain. There's a fire, and there are people dying, and your friends and family are dying from cancer, disease, and chronic illness. Those are the facts. How you want to fucking talk about it, I don't really care. But these are the facts, and you have to pay attention to indicators. If they're telling you, yeah, San Diego, be vest up and be prepared for it. Have an evacuation plan for fires, storms, floods, earthquakes. Then you know what? You better have stop buying your stupid shit. Stop shopping at freaking Fendi and whatever, and start preparing. Okay? What do I mean by preparing? Having your essentials. Release your what do you call it? Your attachments to material bullshit. Start preparing, having your salt if you're doing JJ's, having your salt, your foods that you know that will stick, whatever, and just start scaling back your mentality, your material possessions, because all that shit is, when people want to go and save all their crap, they end up dying. When they want to stay in their house because they have to protect all of their belongings and their house, all the sentimental value, and they're sitting in smoke. I have people on my Facebook that are sitting in smoke right now because either they can't afford to leave, they put all their money in stupid bullshit, and so now they have no way to get out of that area and go somewhere else and live. They're too attached to their community, okay? And so they're going to be sitting ducks with this smoke because they don't want to face reality that these fires are not going to stop. And the smoke is so thick over there in the Santa Cruz Mountain, well, in the Tahoe, the Sierra Nevadas, okay? And, northern Cal, and even Southern California is going to get, all this stuff. And so you got to realize that you've got to put your money in being able to be mobile until all this shit calms down. To where, like, okay, you know that if there's a potential for earthquakes and fires, and your children's safety is far more important than saving all of your sentimental personal belongings. Okay, what you need is your clothes, you need food, you need water, and you need a bed, and you need shelter. When you look at the Maslow's first law, the first ladder, we're back down to Maslow's first ladder. What's Maslow's first ladder is shelter, food, water, climate control, shelter, same thing. All the basic necessities. You need to stop with this Maslow's upper rungs. You need to just do away with them at this point. Now it's about survival. And if you're not there in survival, you're not going to be able to withstand all of these events. I'm telling you, you've got to look at life now very, very differently. And not many of you are prepared. Some of you want to deny that this is going on because you have too many things in your house. You have too many sentimental things. And I told my husband, I have absolutely no attachments to anything. I could give a fuck if my whole house goes. I mean, I hope it doesn't. But if it ever happens because of what is going on with the terraforming and there's floods and there's this and that, I'll do the best I can to save my stuff. But I also am not going to be completely broken up over the fact that I've lost everything because I've expected it. And guess what? I'm able to survive, and I'll know how to deal with any situation. If I have to move somewhere 100 miles away, where let's say there's fires over here and the smoke is so thick and it's making me work harder to filter it out. But some of you are so weak, you have skin conditions, you have respiratory issues, you have so many issues, and can you really afford to sit in that acrid smoke for days at a time? You can't live in your house with a humidifier all the time, and yeah, you could try, but this is going to be going on for years. You're going to have to go out there and go shopping. You're going to have to go out there and take care of, go to work or whatever, unless you're independently wealthy and you can have everything delivered to you and you can stay stuck in your house and your air conditioner and humidifier and breathe through that. But that's not realistic. Okay, and so if you have a bunch of money, liquidate, get your bank account, liquidate everything, and start investing in making sure that you can kind of go to different places if you need to. But I'm telling you, look at the conditions of each, you got to look at the East Coast, you have the snow, okay? Snow and civil unrest during the winter. And then you have the heat and civil unrest during the summer and spring. Okay, then you have tornadoes. Okay, yeah, we have tornadoes. In the down south, you have hurricanes. Okay, we have earthquakes, I guess, every so often, but I've never really felt an earthquake here in the Northeast. I felt definitely a lot of them in California. And so, and then you figure out the plains. Well, the plains, you have all the tornadoes, and you have the storms and the derechos and all the different inclement weather. So you got to really analyze the worst case scenario in every single region, and can you and your family handle it? Because I'll tell you, schooling is going to be all remote as long as you have access to the internet and you have food, water, shelter, and climate control and clothes on your back. Forget all of your material worldly possessions, because that really does not going to make a damn difference at this point in this world. Now you got to think in a very different way. And that's going to be very, very hard for so many people. And it's interesting. When I was younger and I was moving different places, okay, I remember when I moved to Mississippi, the only thing I brought with me to Mississippi was my bedding, my clothes, a microwave oven, okay, and some snacks and my bank card and my car. That was it. That was the extent of what I felt was my worldly possessions, was a microwave oven, which I think I let go of microwave oven for a few years during my holistic time, and then now I have it back, and it's not going to hurt me at all because I got the chili juice, and there is nothing that microwave ovens can really do to harm people because I've healed and sealed. Okay, but that was my proof that I can live so minimally and be like, yeah, back in the, what is it, the Dust Bowl, when everyone, Cannery Row, remember those books from, I forget the guy's name, that wrote Cannery Row and The Grapes of Wrath, John Steinbeck. I read John Steinbeck books back in when I was younger. And yeah, people were coming from the east trying to move west to escape the Dust Bowl, to escape the Depression, to find work, and now you guys have it easier because you can liquidate. Okay, the future right now, the future is, it's hard to see what the future is, especially around, economics. And so now you have to kind of switch gears and be like, okay, now it's about survival. Because they're telling you the next 10 years, 20 years, there's going to be a lot more civil unrest. We have the elections coming up. We have more inclement weather. We're seeing already a taste of the fires, the taste of the hurricanes, the taste of the tornadoes, the direct energy weapons and lightning. I mean, we're in, I guess, the biblical days, and I'm not religious, so I'm not religious, but we are experiencing, I would say, something as of like the 10 plagues. Okay? So if you can switch your gears in denying that this should exist and start facing reality, start getting your head in check with what is actually going on, not what you want it to be. Okay, that's what's wrong with some women, is that they marry these guys or they date these guys and they think that they're going to be this end all be all, and they want them to be this, but the reality they are this, but they keep trying to project that they're this. Instead of dealing with who they are, they're dealing with how they want to mold them and shape them and change them and hope for the best and encourage them in that way. And here's the thing, no amount of positive thinking is going to change the reality of somebody else's intentions. Okay? You're not dealing with just like you manifesting it. I mean, you can manifest certain things within your sphere of influence, and then outside of your sphere of influence, you have absolutely no control. You have to know how to adapt to the changing conditions. You can't control what is going on as far as direct energy weapons, Space Force, your government, but you can control how it is you adapt to the changing conditions. And that is one of the major things about Jade Juice, is understanding where you have control and where you don't. Okay? So, anyways, as far as this sovereign stuff and admiralty law versus maritime law versus common law, get your head out of that stuff. It's going to take away from your healing process. But most of you probably are not going to be doing the Jade Juice because it's too much upheaval in your body, mind, and spirit, and you still got to deal with the elements out there and trying to survive. Some of you will not have what it takes. I wish you would have listened to me about JJus a long time ago when I was, when I was being attacked. But those attacks were very purposeful because, the powers that be are doing depopulation. So those of you that understand JJus will get it and will do it and will find a way to get off the battlefield and listen to indicators. And when you are in an area like the West Coast in the mountains, and you have, enough amount of money because you've saved, or you can liquidate all of your assets, liquidate your shit and be mobile, because there is nothing that's going to be really, predictable as far as economics and making money. I mean, you're already seeing the stock market going weirdly, really weird. You're already seeing your local community being impacted by the COVID, by civil unrest. You're seeing it. That is an indicator to you to figure out how to liquidate and just, find a different way to not only make money, but to focus your attention on keeping your family alive. Okay? Your family homestead is going to be destroyed if you're in the mountains. Okay? If you're out in the rural areas. The whole point is they're trying to push everybody into the inner cities. Okay? And I mean, I'm in a rural area, but not really. I mean, I'm in a city that's a small city, but I'm only an hour away from the main hub. Okay, so I think that where I'm at is probably relatively safe. But, I mean, and you never can really, you never know 100%. But I would say that I can handle the weather that's out here. I can handle the storms. Tornadoes, yeah, well, you listen, you take cover, and you hope for the best. I mean, that's all I could say as far as tornadoes. But the snow, I could deal with cold weather. Okay, but those of you that live in the middle of like Kansas, yeah, you're gonna be dodging tornadoes and major storms. Those of you that live on the East Coast, yeah, hurricanes and inclement weather, yes, but hurricanes. Anyone that lives down south in Florida, you got to worry about the hurricanes. You got to worry about so much stuff. I would get the hell out of Florida if I were you, but some of you are very, happy in Florida. Okay, fine. Those of you that live on the West Coast, well, you already see what's going on the West Coast. Those of you that live way in the north, like North Dakota and all that stuff, okay, well, yeah, you have -50 below, or -50. It could be -60. The temperatures could be so astronomically cold, and it might be. Okay, I know that's a possibility too in Ohio. I'm like the Northeast Ohio on the border, sort of like maybe an hour from the border of Pennsylvania, but I'm not too east, I'm not too north. Well, there is I'm like close to the snow belt, but I'm not too south where I get hit with, the tornadoes, or we get tornadoes, but get hit with the hurricanes too much. We get the after effect, but not like the actual. But who knows? I mean, but there are direct energy weapons. The lightning can be very, very, can be very horrible. So, but you have to go and weigh out all your pros and cons as far as every area. And your family has to be first and foremost, your family. But if you have an imbalanced gut, you're not going to make the right choices for you or your family because you're too focused on pretending the shit doesn't exist. You're too focused on your material items. You're too focused on a future that really is now not very accessible. Okay, the American dream is done with now. Now it's about survival, and now it's about how are you going to fit into this new world? Okay, look at the Georgia Guidestones. Look at the indicators around this whole COVID stuff and the social distancing, the mask. That's all conditioning. Okay, it's like, I understand it's all conditioning, and those that are resisting the conditioning are gonna have a lot more conditions put upon you at some point. All right, so this is not giving up. People are like, well, why don't you fight? What's there to fight? Do you realize we're outmaneuvered, outmanned, totally disorganized? Do you think I have access to a direct energy weapon where I can laser anyone that... The people that are doing all this stuff, they're paid very well, and they're part of a major, big society that most of us do not belong to. Freemasons, you don't know who they are, and they even have expendable Freemasons. There is probably a percentage of the Freemasons that that have a very different plan and they have a very specific purpose. And the lower Masons are just carrying out at the lower level, like they're the people that run your local government. They're the ones that are showing you that, yeah, take your prescription drugs, yeah, do all your holistic remedies, yeah. They've controlled small towns where they've cornered the market and they're like the big wigs in these small towns. But no, they don't have access to the bigger picture because they're a lower Mason. But they're the workhorses. They're the like every company has a hierarchy. You have your top CEO and have all your worker bees. There's even a hierarchy in the Freemasons. You have the top CEO, the third tier degree Masons plus. Then you have your little lower underlings, and those are the ones that are in your community, that are in your local government. That's what I'm saying. Like you don't know who you're dealing with. You're dealing with a very organized people that, even though they say there's no secret society, well, there isn't, but you don't know who the members are, and you don't know all these different intentions. And even the members that are in it don't really know the full big picture. Maybe, they might probably have an idea, but they've given up their lifetime for a cause. Just like my mother, she used her life for this cause of this, adopting babies, doing experiments and whatever. That was her life cause. She committed to that. They gave her a nice life. They paid her money for that. My dad too. No different than what DeWine, all your different local government officials. They get paid a very good amount of money for the time they have on this earth. And they get their power, their prestige, their fame, their 15 minutes or a few hours, and then they will die peacefully. Okay? And that same thing with Hollywood. Okay? Every single player out there that is keeping with this design, that is the architects that are maintaining it and sustaining it, and then you have to only react to it. Because there's no amount of legislation that I'm going to go and introduce. So I could be like, hey, I want to introduce this, proposition, like in San Francisco, they're like, yeah, proposition 1, 2, 3, and 5, and 10, and whatever. And you go and introduce it to your council people, then they go, okay, consider it and put it, on the ballot or something. But you have to get a bunch of signatures and all that. And I remember doing something like that in San Francisco for the communists, where we are trying to put propositions and things through. We have to get so many signatures, or they're trying to, become a member of the council or whatever, supervisors, and somebody wanted to be a supervisor in their area, and so we had to get 2,000 signatures or something. And so, and that's grassroots effort, but that's communist grassroots, which, whatever. So it's not even worth it. You're dealing with Congress, who's already complicit. When you're dealing with maritime law and common law and admiralty law, you're still dealing with freaking Congress that's complicit. And that's probably where all this different psychological operations were like, oh yeah, we'll introduce this, and people don't realize that Congress is part of the bigger picture of what is going on. They already have these bills figured out as far as the COVID and the Senate and the Tracing Act and all these different Gestapo tactics that are going to put you even more at a standstill as far as your freedoms. Okay, so get off the whole thing with the whole sovereignty bullshit, because at this point, the Constitution is null and void, especially when it comes to public health. The Constitution never mentioned public health. They didn't mention viruses way back when. They didn't mention all of that. So we're dealing with a completely different animal, okay? And so, it's how you want to interpret the law is how then they can justify taking away your freedoms, because if it's around the common good and saving people, and you can characterize what saving somebody is. If it means somebody else passing away because you want to save this person, then whatever. That's the conundrums. That's all of the psychological operation that we're dealing with. Okay, so now it's understanding indicators, liquidating all of your assets and putting your money to your family's survival, and then listening to see where the money is going to be in the future. Okay? And find a way to be able to work from home and be mobile. Because I remember I was learning about how to be mobile when I was doing the insurance, and And since I wasn't trained correctly to actually open up my own personal office, I was a cold caller. And when you're a cold caller, you can work for many different agents at different times and work from home. And I had a phone number from Sacramento where I can call everybody in Sacramento and cold call and get people to get into with this agent. And I was here in the Northeast back in 2010, cold calling people in California for different agents. So it was like, I was like a call center. I was like my own personal call center or their personal call center. And so I would do customer service, and I would also put people in policies. And so I was working the California market in Ohio in 2010. So think of how you can be mobile and be able to take your family where they need to go to protect them from the elements, from the terraforming. Because that's what's going to save you, or you end up in the path of a freaking fire that you can't outrun. No amount of jelly juice is going to help you outrun a freaking tornado or a fire or a flood. Okay? I don't care how great jelly juice is, you can't outrun those very aggressive natural elements. So now you have to start listening to indicators, guys. Start taking notice of how you need to be mobile. If I need to leave tomorrow, I can pick up and leave everything. Just take my computer and a few clothes and as much salt as I can carry on my back, because I can't carry, 50 pounds of salt. And a few jars, and I have a little filter thing. What is it? The little water filter I got from Alex Jones a long time ago. It won't come to that. But I'm saying that if can you pick up and know that you could pick up and leave everything behind? Pictures, pictures are sentimental, but it's not everything. Okay? All of these material items, like my book, it's all replaceable. I don't stick around for a fucking book at my house. If I have to pick up and leave tomorrow, I would. If I had to. That's how you have to think. I know it sounds crazy, but whatever. Well, anyways, I'm going to go. I was up early this morning, so I figured I couldn't sleep after that, so I'm like, I might as well just wake up. And so just pay attention. Pay attention to what's going on. Luckily, those of you that live in places where it's not so much crazy weather and inclement weather, you're gonna watch the world burn. You're gonna watch people suffer. You're gonna see what's going on, and it sucks because some people don't have the means to move because they haven't prepared. They haven't been listening to what's going on. Even if you are one of those survivalists that are like, oh yeah, I'm going to go and gather all of my stuff or food, and they have pantries and pantries of food, what makes you think that your area is going to be protected from a flood, fire, or a storm, or a hurricane, or whatever? Okay? Or earthquake. So you got to realize that you should be able to survive on FEMA food, on processed food, on organic food, whatever. I can eat McDonald's and JJ's. I can eat McDonald's now if I really wanted to. But I would probably, let's say I couldn't do JJ's. Well, I could probably be off of JJ's for a while, but I would have for you to be able to do JJ's, you have to have some kind of stability. So if you are that unstable, you can't do JJ's, then you have to look at why it is you're unstable. Okay? FEMA camps are for those that are displaced for a certain amount of time. And then, that's not going to be forever. You're not going to live in a FEMA camp forever. Everything is temporary, but you have to understand that you may have to give up and let go of all of the things that you thought were so wonderful, like a picture. Like there's a picture of, someone that I knew a long time ago. Okay? Some of these things, okay, it's sentimental value, but but you can't afford to put this all on your back when you're trying to flee your house. Okay? So that's the thing is all the things that you've been collecting, all of your collection, like all of your your Beanie Babies or your paperweights or your beautiful art, and all of your silver, family heirlooms. You should have put that in a bank, in a safety deposit box. Why you keep it in your house? So that way you're basically stuck to your house and you don't want to leave because you don't want to leave your family heirlooms. That is what's anchoring you to your house to where you're based, So that's what I'm saying, you guys. You got to learn to listen to indicators. And if you are that poor or that attached to material things, you'll be a sitting duck for whatever. And I'm trying to tell you, you don't have to be a sitting duck for what's going on if you're not attached to material things and you know the least amount that what you can live on. Okay? Or live with. Because you need food, obviously. You need food, water, and shelter. We're down to Maslow's first rung. Some of you are lucky enough that you have enough money, but I'm telling you, the way the economy is going and the way all of this civil unrest is going and all these natural disasters, don't think that your bank account and your status in the community is going to save you, because they're telling you nobody is immune to the economy. Nobody is immune to civil unrest. Nobody is immune to natural disasters or synthetic natural disasters, kind of oxymoronic. Okay? And now it's time to face reality. We're in a major evolution. And whether it's synthetic and contrived and intentional or it's natural, now you have to be able to adapt to it. And do you have what it takes? That's really the name of the game. Do you have what it takes to adapt to the changing conditions? Some of you are going to find that you do not have what it takes. Some of you can find that you do have what it takes. Okay? You have to be mobile in body, mind, and spirit and know exactly what it takes to survive in all situations. All right? Okay. You guys have a good day. Do the J juice. You know, if you're in an area like where I'm living in Ohio, hunker down. Do the J juice. Do the healing. If you're in an area like California, get the fuck out of where you can. Liquidate. If you have the means to liquidate, get the hell out of California. Find some place where you can handle the weather and handle the economy and handle the potential civil unrest. I wouldn't move to an inner city. I would find some place where it's not too in, but not too out. Because if you're too out, you're going to get pushed back in. So understand that they are trying to create smart cities where they have different human population zones, where they're going to connect it with high-speed rails. And they're going to cordon off different parts of the country and let biodiversity come back. But they have to scale down the people and move them through weather, through civil unrest. And if you know this, and you can plan accordingly and still be able to survive and adapt to the new economy, however far down the road that is, or adapt to the current economy and be able to fluctuate with the changing conditions. Okay? It's constant strategy. That's what the J juice gives you, is constant strategy in dealing with reality. Constant strategy in dealing with... God damn, that's good. Let me write that down. Because that is the crux of this transmission. Constant strategy in dealing with reality. And the thing with your education with your kids, you know what? Your kids are going to have to learn how to learn online. You can't, now you really can't, you can't rely on a school system. I mean, I'm looking at, here's the thing, in California, they have a lot of remote learning, like in the universities, like, you know, all the state schools are doing all the state schools are doing remote learning through the console. Why isn't Ohio doing that? Why is the Midwest allowing these university students to go to school? You know why? Because they know eventually there's going to be an outbreak, because students are going to get together, they're going to forget this is going on, they're going to want to hang out and socialize and drink like college students do, and then guess what? The hammer comes down. They're going into a FEMA camp, or they're going to be quarantined in their dorm for 14 days because either they tested positive asymptomatic or they tested positive symptomatic. That's why they're having the Midwest students go to school, so they can test them and then test the draconian reactions to their biochemistry. And then why the California university students are working from home is because they are training that population to be the drone force. Okay? So you're seeing they're dealing with the Midwest students very differently than they're dealing with the students in California, as far as the university students or California State University students in California. Now, they're saying that some of the students in California are going to go back to school, but that's only to see, that's probably like they're releasing small pockets of it so that way they can control this whole outbreak and be like, oh yeah, there's an you know, they allow them to come in, and so they, oh yeah, the numbers are down here, so allow them to go back in, and the numbers go up, and then they're all quarantined because that's what's going on right now. Everyone's quarantined. Like here in Ohio, they all went to school, like I think Carrollton or something, and 146 people have been quarantined now for 14 days because there was an outbreak, 4 students an outbreak, and so everybody got tested, and or everyone that's been around is, you know, they're all quarantined now. And that's the thing. You're going to see the quarantine, not quarantine, quarantine, not quarantine. I mean, you're going to be seeing tennis back and forth all over the U.S., all over the world. And so when you kind of see that, who are the throwaway people when you think about it, you'll see them say, oh yeah, go hang out together. Go ahead. We're gonna allow sports like they're doing here. Like they're like, yeah, we're gonna quarantine 146 people because they went to school together, but sports, the sports is still able to happen. You can still have contact sports. It's like, anyways. So just understand what's coming down the pipeline, y'all, and it's already here. You're just now watching it manifest itself. But understand and protect your kids. If you can homeschool, homeschool. Because that will give you the most control over your child. Once you put your child in public school, yeah, the CDC can take them away for 14 days because of an outbreak. And if you have somebody vulnerable at home that can't be around that kid, so, you know, mark my words, it's gonna. You guys are all gonna feel it, even those that pretend it doesn't exist, and you're all out there gallivanting around the globe like nothing is ever happening. You're gonna deal with not only the constriction of your freedom because of being tested, but also because of the fires, the hurricanes, the tornadoes, the floods. Don't pretend that you live in this wonderful universe. Deal with reality. And warn your friends if you can. All right. Bye.